considering how much I've been gushing over it. And the one I didn't really pick up on it, but I had to think about it again, is that, you know, when Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking about people on Coruscant, you know, Trace and Rafa are back there. And so when Ahsoka says that, it's kind of like, well, wait a minute, you just developed a relationship with these two sisters. They're back there. Who's on Mandalore that you know that's more important than you right now? You didn't just spend time there. You spent time on Coruscant with both of these young women who are now back there, and now there's a war going on there. So I felt like there was a little hiccup right there. But the part that rang true was her pointing the finger at Anakin and Obi-Wan and saying, well, you're just going back to do this for the Chancellor, not for all the people there. But I think, you know, Anakin and Obi-Wan want to help the Chancellor, and they want to help the people of Coruscant. So anyways, those are just a few of my thoughts on that little scene there, that big scene there.
Oh, absolutely. Great thoughts. And this is where the episode, you know, like the episode hasn't been, I was going to say picks up steam, but the episode's been flying as it's been. This is when we actually see the clones, and we see Ahsoka arrive at Sundari on Mandalore, and we see the real action of the Siege of Mandalore begin.
Oh.
And this is where it just gets exciting, and everything is so fast paced for the last 12 minutes of this episode. It's just bam, 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 and it hits on all cylinders. You've heard the phrase firing on all cylinders. This is even better than that. It starts with them in the Republic dropship, and they're on their way down, and they get the message from, of course, a familiar face. Of course, it's Prime Minister Almec. We've seen him earlier seasons of the Clone Wars. He's still the quote unquote face of Maul's puppet government in place there. And they basically are go back and forth with Bo-Katan. They calling each other traitors, whole 9 yards. And of course, at this point, as the ships are coming down, up come the Mandalorian fighters, and battle begins before they even hit the ground, man. And it is incredible seeing how this happens. And we have them flying around, the Mandalorians flying around, landing on the gunships, tearing them apart. They're shooting them out of the air. It's just awesome. And this is where we see Ahsoka come into play. And this reminds me of going back to the movie that started it all, when she was kind of jumping from, her and Anakin were climbing up the side of that mountain, and she's kind of like jumping on the tanks and using the tanks to climb up. She decides, you know, while they're all out there fighting, she looks at Rex and she's like, race you down. So she jumps out of the thing, no jetpack, and she's literally jumping, you know, dropship to dropship at this point, and just taking on the enemy Mandalorians and trying to keep them from destroying the ship. And she literally rides them to the ground in a phenomenal piece of, I mean, this was phenomenally animated. And I love this scene because as she's jumping out, and he's like, I beat you. And she jumps out and flips. Rex kind of looks out the door as she's falling, and he's laughing. He's like, some things never change. I loved it.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the opening scenes here of the Battle of Mandalore?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, it's not just, you know, missiles coming up. It's like you said, the Mandalorians, not the Mandalorians, the Mandalorians. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're in their red armor. I love that. And then you got, you know, Bo-Katan's crew in the blue and the grays. And so you really know who the baddies are, the good guys are. But this clip of Ahsoka going down, cutting off the ends of blasters, using the Force, kicking, cutting the back of jetpacks, and then her running down the end of one of those gauntlets and jumping over um, to save one of the clone troopers. She sticks the lightsaber in there, and the top pops open, and I love it because that pilot, who's a clone, says, "Thanks, Commander," and goes poof, just pops right out, and he's okay. Again, showing her relationship with the clones and their respect for her and her for them, and you know, now we've got the full picture of when she lands and she uses her lightsabers, digs them into the ground to slow herself down, and that big fiery explosion. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then she starts blocking every laser bolt, and then here comes Bo-Katan's crew up behind her, and the music swells, and and then Kevin Kiner, it's like the hero. She's the hero, and I got the feels again. So this beginning of the battle of the siege of Mandalore on Sundari in the capital city is just like I said, it's mind blowing what they put together there. It is cinematic, and again, this makes. Go back to what you and I talked about a few minutes ago. I would love to see this with a full-blown speakers, huge screen in a theater, just going nuts with fans watching it.
Oh gosh, it would be incredible. And you're right. This was her nailing that landing is probably the greatest scene in this episode. I just nailing that landing and coming up and assuming that battle hardened.
Pose with her classic handle, the way she holds her lightsabers.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's just it. It's that classic battle stance. It is just so nice to see. It is. Oh God, I loved it. I loved it. I am so stoked for this arc. I was geeking for it. I was trying not to show it when I put out that little video yesterday, but oh my gosh, I'm geeking over this episode. So she nails that landing. They start fighting, and the whole scene is very reminiscent of the season 5 episode, The Lawless, when the doors open up and Obi-Wan's standing there and all you have are Mandalorians flying around everywhere battling each other. It looks like a scene straight from that. And we have Mandalorians battling clones with jetpacks and fighting going on. And what's one of the things that really surprised me about this episode, and the thing is, I knew they were there because I read Sons of Dathomir, so I knew they were around, but I never thought I would see them in these episodes, is Gar Saxon from Star Wars Rebels fame is in this episode. He's pretty much commanding the Mandalorians at this point, and it was so good to see a young Gar Saxon. I mean, we saw we haven't seen her without her helmet yet, but we're seeing a younger Ursa Wren, who is Sabine Wren's mom, as well. So we're seeing these connections to Rebels in this episode. We even saw Kanan Jarrus at the beginning of this episode as a Padawan.
Yes.
If you want the opening narration, it shows the conference room with the holograms. On the far side of the table, we have Master Depa Bilba and Caleb Doom, her Padawan, as Kanan as a little kid. I mean, there's so much. There's so much little stuff, nuances just kind of jammed in this episode. Just little things here and there. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. We see a battle in the throne room. Of course, this is the throne room where Satine was killed. And it's the same throne room where we saw Palpatine go head to head with Maul and Savage Opress at the end of that episode as well. So we see that throne room. It's been put back together. That's where Almec is holding court, and we see them battle out there. Um, one one quick thing: Almec's armor. Did it look familiar to you?
Absolutely.
I would I would have sworn that was Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cord around the shoulder, even
Yeah.
the helmet color. And I don't know if it's just a coloration for the lighting, but the coloration almost is a dead ringer for the Boba Fett's green helmet.
Yeah. The coloration is very close. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe Boba Fett's helmet is actually Almec's helmet.
That'd be pretty wild.
That
I,
would be.
yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Placement there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I'm just visualizing episode 2, episode 3. Yeah. No, I hear you. Um,
I don't know,
yeah.
but I don't know. But it does look familiar. I don't know. And I'm not saying that it is. Nobody has said anything, but it just something I noticed. It kind of just looks a little Boba Fettish.
Yeah.
That probably
Well,
didn't come out right.
well, it, I just think that was perfect. Oh my gosh. You played that pun perfectly. That little
Carabas.
Carabas moment. Um, well, let me save you. That's my job. Going back to Gar Saxon and Rook Cast, of course, we have to say Vanessa Marshall. A lot of Rebels ties in. Vanessa Marshall, voice of Harrison Dula for Rebels. She does the voice of Rook Cast. Um, but last week in the episode, we talked about getting our listeners prepared for these final episodes. And we talked about the Ahsoka novel and, of course, the Son of Dathomir trade paperback. And in that, it's so neat that they took the way that the comic is and really animated that. Rook Cast and Gar Saxon look just like they do in the comic, which is really neat. And again, ties together so smoothly. Gosh, again, just wanting the 4 episodes that Son of Dathomir comic is based on. Oh, want them made, but alas, probably won't happen. So much stuff packed in here, and then I would like to say this, that as they're battling, again, going to the next scene, you see Ahsoka over on a ledge talking to Rex and some of the other Mandalorians that are on Bo-Katan's side, and Bo-Katan's standing there, and she says, "Look, I'm going to go to the throne room, right, and you find Maul." But the thing, again, that seems like a little bit of a hiccup to me, this is my second one, and everything else I love, is, she says to Ahsoka, "You've got to find Maul." But as soon as Almec says, well, he was, wanting another Jedi, she immediately gets on the comm and says, "Ahsoka, you're going into a trap." Well, what? Well, of course. I mean, you said Ahsoka knows this. Ahsoka's there. Any tracking down a Maul is going to be incredibly dangerous, and traps galore or problems galore with him and his Mandalorian. So I wasn't quite sure. On one scene, you see Bo-Katan say, "You have got to find Maul," and the next one, "No, don't go find him. It's a trap." Well, of course it is. I mean, the guys. That's what Maul is. So again, little quibble there for me, but I can bypass both of those and still love this episode.
No, I can understand that. I mean, don't necessarily have a quibble with that scene. I mean, they're desperate to get this done. They know they have not won the battle till they get Maul, and so I can understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Then she sends Rex to help them guard the docks so Maul can't escape, while Katan goes to that throne room, and Ahsoka goes down into the under city of Sindari to look for Maul. Well, of course, she meets up with Captain Vaughn, a clone trooper there, or a Tano trooper, as they're being called. And they go searching these underground tunnels for Maul and for some Mandalorians who had gone down there. And they start going through, and of course, obviously, it's a trap. We know that because of what happened upstairs, but you just